Welcome everyone to the School Improvement Institute Learning Community for Cycle 1 schools. The topic of this learning community is the preparation of your interventions. My name is Sue Reynolds. I'm president of the American Student Achievement Institute, and also with us today is Mary Beth Granderson, who is a strategic planning specialist for the School Improvement Institute. So what we'd like to start with is a little review. Everything that we do this month is going to build on what we did last month. So just wanted to remind you that last month you developed your interventions, and they were very strategically selected to address your root causes, and knowing that if you could make those root causes go away, that achievement would go up. So we've designed those interventions to address root causes, knowing that those root causes would impact your goals if we could successfully address them. So the question then has been, can we implement those root causes really well so that they're implemented fully, and also so that they're implemented by everyone who's supposed to be implementing them? So this month we're kind of changing what we've done in past years. We're teasing out preparation as a step all by itself. In the past we haven't done that so much, and this year we definitely want to do that. So the preparation we actually started last month. So last month when you entered your interventions, we asked you to identify, as part of the initial preparation, who's going to be responsible for this intervention, when is it going to happen, and what additional development do you need? Do you need to evaluate the intervention, professional development, secure funding, or secure resources? So in this first example, the intervention was Math Club. And we've decided, the school has decided that to implement Math Club with integrity and fully, that they wanted to have an evaluation, they wanted to do professional development for the math teachers that were going to be implementing it, they're going to need a little bit of money, and they wanted to secure some resources. So this month, much of the preparation is finished, but then this month what we're going to do is any of these that are checked, this month we'll do them. So, so for this intervention, in the online system, it's going to ask you to develop an evaluation plan, a professional development plan to secure the funding, and a plan for securing any resources that you need. In another example, let me go on to a second example. In this example, this intervention that was entered last month was really pretty simple. It was just looking at, we needed to add ratios into the curriculum guide that we distribute to kids and parents. So that's really simple. We probably didn't need to evaluate that or do professional development or get money for it. It's just a very simple intervention, but one that's important. You know, we want people to understand that ratios is part of our 7th grade math curriculum. So you'll notice that for this intervention, nothing is checked here. So you may be wondering, well, why should we even put that in as an intervention? The reason is because of the implementation date. You're going to be able to print a to-do list of all the different steps that need to happen to make sure that your school improvement plan gets implemented with integrity. And because we've entered this as an intervention and put a date here on the calendar on May 29th, Sally Dillman's going to have her see her name, and she's going to get a reminder, oh, I was supposed to have done this to the curriculum guide prior to May 29th. Okay, so you've got two examples, one of a more comprehensive intervention and one of a simple intervention. And depending on which of these things is checked, each intervention will be customized in the system. Okay, so this month then we're getting to the preparation, the last step, and we already know the person responsible, we already know the timeline. So this month we're going to be looking at evaluation, professional development, funding, and resource securement. So before we move on, we wanted to say a little bit about professional development. This is an area that we think we'd like to see schools beef up a little bit. We talk with a lot of schools that have these wonderful school improvement plans, but then when we start talking about the intervention, the schools will tell us, oh, well, a third of the teachers just didn't do the intervention, or a third did it, but they didn't do it very well. So we really want to make sure that our professional development has engaged the teachers, has given them the skills and the knowledge they need to do the interventions. So these stages, these steps, you might recognize from the change game. For those of you who participated in SI2 when we used to do face-to-face workshops, there was a wonderful change game that was a teaching tool that we used. And that tool identified stages of change, starting out with people becoming interested in something, to then going to the next stage of preparing to do it, and then trying it out, early use, and then routine use. So what we would like to suggest to you is that your professional development should mirror the evolution of folks through these different stages. So in the beginning, let's say you're doing differentiated instruction as an intervention in math, and you're just introducing it to people. So you're wanting to get people interested. So their questions are, what is this? How is it going to impact me? So your focus of your professional development is just very general in nature. There's this thing called differentiated instruction, and here's what it is. And then you're also anticipating the resistance. Why are folks going to not want to do this, which is usually time and energy, a lack of time and energy. And how can you address that resistance before you get any further? Because what will happen is if you go to the preparation stage and you've got resistant folks, they're not going to prepare well. So you need to get them on board before you get to the next part of your professional development. So what could you do? Group presentations, one-to-one discussions, taking people to see other schools that are doing the intervention. Okay. So now people are interested. They're thinking, yeah, we should spend our time to do this, but now I don't know how to do it. So at that stage, you're providing professional development that helps people learn how to do what you're asking them to do. Gives them knowledge, gives them skills, maybe gives them an opportunity to role play or to rehearse what they're doing, to practice it. Then a chance for them to reflect on how their practice went, and then feedback from you or the facilitator on how that practice went. Activities that you could do is a workshop, a small learning community, or one-to-one coaching. So then people have the skill, and now we're asking them to try it for the first time. So we're in early use, and people try it, and 99% of the time when people try something for the first time, it does not go well. So you can anticipate that first trial is going to be problematic. What will happen then is if you don't address that with professional development, people will say, oh, this isn't working, and they'll just abandon the intervention. So professional development at that stage is really important. After people have first tried the intervention, then you want to give them some feedback, because their question is, am I doing okay? Did I do this right? Is it making a difference? So you want to observe them, give them a chance to talk about how it went, and then give them feedback. So activities might be principal observations, peer observation. In my school, when we tried new interventions, we've always partnered up with another teacher, and then we would go into their classroom and see, and then they would come into our classroom and see how it was going. So we just kind of helped each other out that way. Small learning communities, you could do reflection. How did it go in a small learning community? And then folks will have a chance to give each other feedback. Or, if you've got some peer coaches, one-to-one coaching would work well there as well. So what we're really wanting to see this year in the professional development is that you have a series of events, one to introduce, then skill building, and then feedback. So it's a series in your professional development. A lot of schools will do a one-time sit and get as they're introducing a comprehensive intervention, and that just doesn't work. Some teachers will do something well from a one-time sit and get, but the majority will be average at implementing it at best, and some will just not do it. So we really think that this professional development is key in implementing your school improvement plan well. And then finally, that fourth step there is after your teachers have been doing the intervention for a while, then they start to want to know, well, how do I improve? And so then they need more in-depth knowledge and skills, and then the opportunity for reflection and feedback. So as you're looking at your professional development this year, we'll be asking you to identify the stage that the audience is in, the stage that the teachers are in, and then we'll be asking you to show us how that professional development event is going to address that stage. We've done it in checklists and fill in the boxes, so I don't think it's going to take long for you to enter it into the system, but we do want you to be thinking about this. Okay, so we also have written for you a new document called the Professional Development Activity Planning Guide. It's kind of just like what I've just explained, but it's in narrative form. So you have that as a resource for you. Okay, so that said, now let's look into preparation. So this month, when you're preparing to implement those interventions, we'd like you to prepare these 4 areas: evaluation, professional development, funding securement, and resource securement. However, each intervention is going to be different. For one intervention, you may be just doing the evaluation part. For another intervention, you may be deciding to do all 4 parts. And again, that's based on what you told the computer last month. Okay, so if you said for an intervention that you wanted to have evaluation, this is what you're going to see in the computer. So this actually is for an intervention to introduce a ratios unit in 7th grade math. And so the evaluation, the questions you're going to get is, which adult group is this intervention designed to impact? 7th grade math teachers. What practice is this intervention trying to bring about? We want the 7th grade math teachers to include ratios in the 7th grade math curriculum. What are you going to count? The percentage of, or we gave you the option of the number of, the percentage of 7th grade math teachers who include ratios in their curriculum. What's the baseline data? Well, in April I went and talked to the teachers and none of them were doing that, so my baseline data is 0. And my follow-up data by March next year, I want all of my math teachers to have implemented this ratios unit in their curriculum. So, and then who's going to be responsible for collecting the follow-up data is John Smith. When you click entry for this tab is complete, that puts a little check mark up on the tab so that you know that you don't need to go back into that tab. It's finished. One other thing is that on the evaluation date, we put in as a default March 1st, 2016. We chose March 1st because during the month of March next school year, you're going to be deciding which interventions do you want to do in the coming year. So if you have intervention data by March 1st, you'll be able to see, did the interventions have the impact that you wanted them to have. We know that some interventions you can't collect data until the end of the school year, but if you can collect that data by March 1st, it's going to give you some data to look at when you get to interventions next year. Okay, if anybody has questions, now's the time to jump in. Any questions about evaluation? So we're basically always looking at which group of adults are we going to impact, and then what are we going to count to show that the adult practice has changed. So, questions? Okay, go on then. Okay. So let's look at the next tab, which is professional development. So if you indicated that you wanted professional development, this is what you're going to see. First of all, you've got 2 links. This is another link that will take you directly to our professional development planning guide. And then also you've got a link to DOE's core professional development principles. Public Law 221 says that the professional development that you provide must be aligned with DOE's core principles. However, we've incorporated all those core principles into your work already. So it's not really necessary for you to open this up or to do a check or anything like that. We wanted to put it there so you could check if you wanted to, but I can tell you that between the rubric and the blanks that we're having you fill in, you're going to hit all those principles. Okay, so when I'm ready to enter an activity, I would just click Add a Professional Development Activity. And let's say the first one that I'm going to enter is just an activity to help people get interested in the intervention. So I would write the activity name, person responsible, who is the target group, which adults this professional development is going to be designed for, who's going to facilitate this. It may be the same person as the person responsible, but maybe you're bringing in an outside presenter, or maybe it's going to be someone else in your building. Then what stage are the participants in? So I would click Introduction. Then I'm going to describe the activity. I'm going to, it's just the who, what, where, when, how. So I'm describing the activity very concisely. When is the activity going to happen? And then will this professional development activity occur during the contract hours? We think that it's always better if that answer can be yes, so that you can make sure that all of your teachers are there to participate. And then what is the anticipated result? The result should link to the stage of change that your participants are in. So if you're telling us that you're trying to get people interested, the result then would be people are interested and all resistance questions have been addressed. People, the folks are eager to implement. That would be your anticipated result. If you click preparation, then your anticipated result would be that all of the participants would have the skills and knowledge they need to implement the intervention and have had a chance to practice the intervention. And then if it's early use, the participants had a chance to reflect on their implementation of the intervention and were able to obtain feedback from the principal or a peer or whatever. So again, your anticipated results are going to be based on what you were trying to do, where your audience was. Okay, so that's the professional development, and again, I think most of your time is going to be spent thinking about what is the best way to do professional development for this intervention. Once that thought process is finished, then putting it into the system should be pretty quick. Where we want you to spend your time is the thinking part of this. How am I going to do this well so that this intervention gets implemented with integrity by every teacher or everybody that's supposed to be doing it? So, okay. Again, I'm just going to pause real quickly. Any questions about professional development? Not seeing any hands up. Not hearing any questions. Okay. Okay. Funding is fairly simple. How much money is going to be needed? And then there will be another question in here that says what's the money going to be used for. That's actually in there now. I did the screenshot before we had changed that. And then when you're ready to add a task, you would simply click Add a Task, and this will come up. What's the task name, the person responsible, and then when is this task going to happen by? That'll put it into your calendar. Then you'll see that the task will appear on the funding page after it's been entered. So, okay. Okay, and then on resources, it works the same kind of way. What resources are you going to need? Let's say for this ratios unit, we found a resource online called actually this is a real resource online, How to Teach Ratios, teacher version. And so the task that I've already put in is that someone would download How to Teach Ratios and distribute it during a workshop. And so it's Helen Green that's going to do it, and there's the deadline. So if I wanted to add another task, I just click that, and there's the screen where you just enter the task. The name, the person responsible, and the deadline, and then that will put that task in the calendar. Okay. So I kind of tried to anticipate what questions you might have. One question I thought you might have is, why even bother to prepare these interventions? And I think that should be obvious that, we increase our odds that the intervention is going to be fully implemented if we take the time to prepare it well. Do we need to prepare all interventions? No. You're only going to prepare the intervention components that you identified last month. And you'll see in a minute when we get online, we've given you a really quick way to edit that. And then that brings us to the next question, can we change our minds? Yes. If you no longer think you need professional development for a specific intervention, then you don't have to do that. Okay, so let's look real quickly at reports and then we'll get online. So here's what the reports will look like. For each intervention, there will be an individualized intervention report. So this report is for the 7th grade ratio unit. Here's the evaluation I'm planning to do. Here's the professional development I'm planning to do. And then if I scroll down, there would be the funding and the resources. So if whoever the chair is of this intervention, that would be a really nice report for them to have to kind of guide their work. Then I also wanted to make sure that we went over the rubric for the preparation report. Pretty much it's the rubric items go with the blanks. So when you were filling out the system, if you have something that makes sense in each of the blanks, you're going to be fine on all the rubric items. The one I thought that you might need just some prompting on are the professional development rubric items. We want to make sure that the professional development includes a series of activities which address the changing intervention stages of your faculty. So we will be looking for a series of activities. Also, we want to make sure that the professional development addresses a variety of adult learning styles and that the professional development for the most part occurs during contract hours. These are two items that DOE's core principles for professional development mention and that our work incorporates as well. And then the last two are kind of no-brainers. So just kind of think about these three as you're developing the professional development. Okay, so that's the individual report for each intervention. Then there's also, after you have entered all of your intervention preparation, then there's a report that will spit out. You don't have to do anything special. There's just a report that you push a button and it creates. And what that report does is it takes all of the professional development from all of your interventions and puts it into one summary report. So here's intervention number 1, 7th grade ratios unit. Here's intervention number 2, math club. And then here's the professional development steps that lists the date and what stage the group is in, and then also the stage that the people are in. Okay, so that's the professional development report. Now, there's a couple of items that we can't check for until we see all of the professional development. So for all schools, we want to make sure that professional development has been included for all comprehensive strategies. This is just kind of a, makes sense kind of thing. If you're going to implement a comprehensive intervention, you need to have professional development so your teachers know how to do it. So if there's an intervention that looks complicated to us, we'll probably ask you, if you haven't already, we'll ask you to make sure that you've included professional development for it. The other thing that we'll be looking for is that the professional development activities collectively create a culture of collegiality and collaboration. So we'll be looking to see, do they have learning communities? Is there peer-to-peer coaching? Are we creating this culture of improvement? So we'll be looking for that in your professional development activities. If all we see is sit and gets, then we'll be talking to you about creating that culture. Then in the Indiana Rules and Regs, in PL 221, there's a requirement for professional development to address cultural competency. So the way we're incorporating that is on your cultural competency interventions, that there needs to be a professional development component for those to meet PL 221 requirements. So we'll be checking for that. And then if you are a Title I school that is focus targeted, then there's two other professional development requirements that may be required for you. One is that if your English language learners did not meet AMO, then you have to have professional development for the interventions related to English language learners, and those interventions need to be based on this document from DOE. We'll put a link in our system, or there is a link in our system that can take you to this menu, so you know what the expectation is from DOE. And then secondly, if you're Title I and your special ed kids did not meet AMO, this is a typo, AMO, then we need to make sure that any interventions for your special ed students that are targeted for special ed, that they also have professional development with them so that you can become compliant with those Title I requirements for focus targeted schools. So, okay, and we'll be checking for that, but just we want to give you a heads up that, as you're reviewing your school improvement plan yourselves, before you submit them to us, we want to make sure that these things are in. Okay, so that is the second report, the professional development report. And then here's the to-do list. So the to-do list is just, again, all interventions from all of the to-do steps from all of the interventions collectively. So this is just kind of like a mega calendar. I know a lot of SI2 schools will blow up this calendar into poster size, post it in their teacher workrooms, and then just check off the steps as they happen. That way you make sure that nothing gets left out as you're implementing your school improvement plan. I also, my school used to do this. We would put this up in the teacher's workroom, and I loved it because I would check it from time to time to see if my name was going to appear in this right column, and if it did, then I knew I had something that I had to do. Or my friends would tell me, Sue, don't forget you're supposed to do that next week, or I would tell my friends. So we just made sure that nothing fell off the plate, that everything was getting done. So, okay, so you've got that report to help you make sure that your interventions get implemented. Okay, so we wanted to give you some time to just kind of as a quiz, a test, to see how you would review this professional development summary. So if this came in based on what we've just talked about in terms of professional development and what we're looking for and good practice in professional development, there's one glaring issue on this that we want to make sure that you would identify if this were your school, or you'd understand that we would identify if you submitted it like this. So I'll give you just a second to kind of read through this and see what you come up with. So in reading the report, we've got 2 interventions, 7th grade ratios, and math club. And then here are 3 professional development activities and 1 professional development activity, dates, and then the stage that the participants are in. So what's problematic? Anybody want to take a stab at it? Just jump in, unmute yourself. We had a learning community this morning that had 5 or 6 people jumped in, and we had another one last hour that nobody did. But I hear somebody has unmuted themselves. What do you think? I'm hearing somebody unmuted. Do you want to take a stab? Who is that? I think they just muted themselves again. Okay, well let me tell you what we're thinking. I'm sorry, are you there? Okay. From our perspective, the seventh grade unit looks pretty good.
Muted. Unmuted.
Thank you, Mary Beth. What Mary Beth did was she muted everyone so that wherever that background noise was coming from, it was not being able to be heard, but she muted me too. So thank you, Mary Beth. Okay, so let's go back. So the seventh grade ratios unit, actually, if I saw that one, I wouldn't bring up red flags for me at all, because I'm seeing, the plan here. We're having a meeting to kind of talk about the rationale for why we need to get ratios into the curriculum. That's the introduction step. We're just kind of getting everybody on board. We're whetting their appetite. That also is allowing us to see where resistance might pop up, and we can address it before our training meeting. And then we're jumping into the next activity, which is the ratios unit development, just a week later. And there we're jumping in with people that are ready for preparation first. So we're doing skill building and knowledge building. And then we went to early use. So in this case, we're being told that this is going to happen at a department meeting, and I'm anticipating that everybody's going to reflect on how that lesson went. They'll take some notes about things that they need to change for the next time they implement it. But they're giving their peers some feedback. So from my perspective, we've got a nice sequence in here. I've got dates. So I'm pretty happy if I were reviewing this on the seventh grade ratios unit. On Math Club, the school obviously said they needed professional development or would not have appeared here. But all I've got is one workshop. So I'm thinking, if this warranted professional development, we probably needed to not only introduce it, but to really talk about preparing for Math Club. When's it going to happen, and how teaching the teachers how to do referrals of students who are struggling in math to Math Club. What we're going to do with those kids, how we're going to training the teachers, how they're going to communicate to the referring teacher, or whatever. So we probably need to do some preparation. And the school's not indicated that that's happening at all. We're not training the teachers in this whatsoever. And then the other part is we don't have any early use. So, my guess is that if this is an intervention worth doing well, probably at least a couple times we want to get the math teachers together and say, how's that going? And what do we need to do differently? And, what problems are you having when you're in charge of Math Club or whatever? So, yeah, so that's the kind of thing that we'll be looking for. And if Mary Beth is reviewing this, she would probably say it needs revision and ask you to further develop your professional development for Math Club. Okay, so I think, yeah, does anybody have any questions? If not, we'll jump into the online system real quickly. Okay, not hearing any questions, so let's get out from there and go into the online system. Okay, so on the Process tab, when you click on the Process tab, you come up to the front of this, and when you scroll down to the last part of the school improvement plan, which is preparation. This video that we're recording right now is most likely going to end up right here. It may be one from a different learning community, but there will be one here on Watch the Video if you need to go back and review. Your participating learning community. Here's a link to that professional development planning guide that we created for you. And then in step 4 is where you're going to enter your preparations. So I'm going to click on step 4, and here's some narrative at the top, and then here are all of my interventions. And notice that I'm going to prepare each intervention one at a time. So my first intervention is 7th grade ratios unit. I'm going to click, and then I can click on enter. But let's say I'm going to go ahead and start to prepare that, and I go in and I say, okay, I'm going to prepare evaluation, professional development, funding, and resources. Funding, I don't need any funding for this. If that happens and you want to change anything, just go back, click the revise, the orange revise icon. This will take you directly back to last month's activity and right to where you need to go, so you can just unclick funding securement and then hit save. Okay, so it's very easy to change which tabs show up. So, okay, so let's say I didn't want to change anything. I'm going to go to enter. And then we've already looked at each of these tabs, so you would just click through and adjust the tabs that you need to. So, or fill in the tabs as you do so. Let's see, notice that when you say that the step is complete, you get these little checks that tell you that that tab is finished. And then also, I just really want to help you understand, and this was one of the hardest parts about designing this system for you, is that each intervention is customized, individualized. So if you said, I only want to develop the evaluation part, this is the only tab that will appear. So, okay. So I would develop the 7th grade ratio unit. I would develop the attendance mentors. And now this one is a little different. So this one says the name of the intervention is Curriculum Guide Update, Add Ratios to the List of Math 7 Topics. And it says this is not applicable for preparation. The reason that is not applicable was because when you checked the components last month, you didn't check anything. So there's nothing to prepare for this intervention. If that was a mistake, I can hit revise and say, you know what, I do want to evaluate, did this happen? So I'm going to click evaluate, click save. Okay, now I can go back, and if I refresh this, you can see now I'm able to go in, and when I click this now on the enter, there's only going to be just one tab, just that evaluation tab, because it was the only thing I said I wanted to develop. Okay, so in terms of undoing or taking off some of the things that you said you were going to develop, remember that on the professional development, that if it's a comprehensive intervention, our expectation is that you will develop the professional development. And then there's those 3 cases from DOE where there is professional development expected. So if you take off professional development that needs to be on there, we'll give you a heads up, but just kind of try not to do that. Okay, and then the other thing on this page is notice that you've got a submit button for each of these. So with each intervention, as you're finished developing it, then just hit the submit button and then the status will appear. Mary Beth will begin to evaluate the preparation of each intervention, one intervention at a time. So you'll submit here and she'll evaluate. Okay, so that is how to prepare them. Scroll back down to preparation. So I've got the entry, step 4, preparation. Then, when all of your preparation is finished for all the interventions, there's nothing more to do, we need you to give us a heads up so that we can start to look at your interventions collectively. So you'll just click this, enter, that'll tell us, and you'll tell us that your entry is complete. And then if you're happy with everything, submit your professional development plan. We'll look at that, make sure that you've got a series of events. Your professional development plan, you can also print that and give it to your teacher association for approval. Remember, PL 221 says that your teacher association needs to, at the building level or the district level, needs to approve your professional development plan. So you can just print this report and give it to them. And then you can also distribute the to-do list. There's where you get that. And then you can see the rubric items. And that's it. So that's it for preparation. the very last step that we gave you, because at this point your school improvement plan is finished. You've done everything. So the very last thing that we've given you is a submit button to let us know that you're ready for us to take one final look at your whole in-school improvement plan. We've been looking every month, so I doubt if at this step there's going to be any huge surprises, but this is just letting us know that you're finished, that you have nothing more to do. At that point, we finalize the plan and we'll approve it. You'll get the little balloons that say that you have, you've met all of our criteria and you've met our school improvement planning certification. And then we will also submit to DOE a memo saying that your school has met all of the PL 221 requirements. And then, because we've said that, DOE does not do a second review. They take our certification that has happened. Okay, so and that's it for the year. Do you want to look ahead to August just for a second, so this doesn't take you by surprise? Nothing new. In August, you'll have or by the end of August, you'll have a new set of ISTEP or ECA data. And so we just put in this step to just kind of look at that data, the new ISTEP or ECA data, and just kind of give your school improvement plan a vote of confidence. Does it need to change, or is it okay the way it is? What we find is that ISTEP data does not tend to change drastically from one year to the next. You'll see small improvements over time. So I don't think we've ever had a case where a school has had to totally revise their school improvement plan. Usually whatever was problematic the year before might be a little bit improved, but not enough that you'd want to change your school improvement plan. But we do want you to look at your data then in August, so we'll ask you to do that. And then in September, provided that you've been able to look at this data and that the deadline from DOE stays the same, in September you'll be able to download a report from us that is your PDF document that is your school improvement plan, and then save it on your computer and then upload it to DOE. One change is that this report is going to look entirely different. DOE has a new optional format for a school improvement plan, and so it's easy for DOE to read your plans and it's easy for you to communicate with DOE about your plans. What we're going to do is tell the computer to take all the information that's in the computer about your school improvement plan and drop it into DOE's template. And then we'll submit it from DOE, or in DOE's, you will submit it in DOE's template. We think if for any reason that you end up talking with DOE about your school improvement plan, the fact that you're using the same template that they're familiar with, as well as the language now that they are familiar with, should make that discussion a lot easier. Okay, I think that's it. Mary Beth, what have I forgotten, or what do you want to add from questions the schools have given you? I should tell everyone, Mary Beth had a lot to add last time that I had forgotten, or questions that schools had given her, but since I got to hear her comments last hour, I just incorporated them this hour.
There is a question on the webinar. How do the root causes strategies tie into the academic SMART goals? If you want to address that.
Okay, let's go back. Let me bring a visual up. Okay, let's use this one. So, okay. Okay, so how do they tie into the SMART goals? So remember, when you were designing your root causes, the root causes, let me back up. The way the process worked was we started with your SMART goals, And then we said for each of your SMART goals, what's getting in the way of that SMART goal happening. And so you identified, all different kinds of things. And the ones that were, the answers that were majorly getting in the way, those became your root causes. So the root causes are directly associated with your SMART goals. You put your SMART goals in, and then you said what's getting in the way, and those became your root causes. And then based on those root causes, you said, okay, here's the interventions we need to put in place to make those root causes go away. And then now we're talking about the preparation. So I think if I understood the question right, I think that should have made sense. But I'm not sure where that question came from, but can you just type in or just unmute yourself and just let us know if that answered your question? Are they being shy, Mary Beth? Okay, I'm going to assume that answered the question. Any other questions? Okay. And I'm looking too. Mary Beth, don't forget to unmute yourself if you want to jump in here. So I'm not seeing anything, so let's assume it's a wrap. So thank you so much. We're hoping that this new way that we're doing the online system with preparation in a separate month will allow you to have the time to do a lot of really good thinking and then to be able to get the documentation in the system very, very quickly. So look forward to your feedback on that, but I think that's, at least so far as we've looked at it, we think that that's going to be what happens. Call Mary Beth, of course, if you get questions, have questions, or if you get stuck or whatever, or if something in the system doesn't seem to be working properly, we can help you walk through that and just kind of be there for you. So thank you so much. Thanks, everybody, and have a wonderful, wonderful month, and we'll talk to you next month. Thanks, everyone.